Okay, we are live. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. How's your flip going? How's your
Good.
yeah.
A lot of work right now, actually.
Oh yeah?
Because when it gets to the crunch time, you're like, we want to be ready for September, like you said, because September is going to be a hot month. So we're really pushing to make sure we're done end of August. And I mean, get the details are what always takes the most time, right? Making sure, the details in like the baseboards or like the trims, like those little things are always important. It's like you can lay down the floor, but if the baseboards aren't nice, like the floor, it won't present the floor properly, right? Same thing like with
Exactly.
tiling and stuff like that. So now it's, really go, 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 and
Yeah,
just trying to get it done and ready for a showing in September.
amazing. So I guess we jumped right into it then, but let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Sandy Casella. This is Diana Lizarazo, and we are talking about On the Flip Side. So we do this every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and today we're talking about basically general questions or general information about investing and flipping, things like that. Today we're going to get into pre-construction, but Diana's doing a project in Toronto. So we were talking a little bit about that. So I have a question for you about that actually. If you're watching, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. We'll certainly get to them. And if you happen to have a question sometime, if you're watching this sometime later and you have a question, reach out to either of us. You can DM us or we'll put our email in there as well, and we're happy to answer. So I do have a question. How are things getting material wise? Is that starting to ease up a little bit?
Material wise, I mean, I don't think we ever had issues, let's say, receiving material, because we're not people that always use like Home Depot, like we have specific suppliers.
Yeah.
So I think majority of the people that were having issues with supply, except for I would say obviously, anything for decks, like that was,
Mhm.
no one was getting wood anywhere, when it came to what I forgot, the pressure treated wood.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like, it doesn't matter where you go, you're hunting around to every store and like grabbing pieces by pieces if it came. But other than that, our suppliers always had everything. The
Yeah.
only thing was costs. The costs of things, my God,
Yeah.
they like quadrupled.
Yeah. I know.
It
I
was
know.
crazy.
It
So,
was it was crazy, the price of stuff. So I have an interesting point about that actually. So I was talking to somebody who had their house for sale and felt that the price, now their house was, I'll get your take on this. Their house was about 20 years old, and they thought that the house should be priced higher because the cost of material had gone up. And my argument was, well, no, like you're not building the house right now, so why would your house be worth more money? And they said, well, if they were to rebuild this house today, it would cost them a lot more money. What's your take on that?
yeah, I also don't think it would be more because it's the people who are building right now that are, for example, like that, like we've gone over budget because of and we've gone over our max budget because materials have just quadrupled. And also at the same time, you only have so much storage space that is again worth it to have and to be able and like enough, because I mean if you get like I mean to the size of our house, right, the one we got, like the amount of lumber and everything that we had
Yeah,
to buy was so much, for and also the other reason why I don't think that, let's say, that house would be more is more for the other reason that now it looks like the style of houses are changing. Like you look at new builds,
yeah,
and at least I don't know, at least in like let's say in Oakville, this style of house is completely changing quite a bit. Like they're much bigger. They're like really big houses. And
yeah,
then you compare it to a house that's existing, like you're dealing with like a bungalow, and now they're like these massive two-story houses, so now the price differences are quite drastic actually.
yeah, yeah.
um and I assume that's
That's true.
probably everywhere is similar, like a lot of the new builds I guess are starting to happen, just a lot of gentrification is happening, I feel, all over the place.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
What do you
Well,
think?
yeah, I mean, the OMB's job is basically like making things highest and best use, right? And what's the word? It's gone right out of my brain. You know, like the intensification, right? They want more properties because they need housing. But yeah, no, I totally, because you can't, if the price of material had dropped, would they say, I think my house is worth less? No, right? The price of material drops, you're not pricing your house lower. I mean, it costs a certain amount to build it at that point. So I just thought it was an interesting take on things, you know, but yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about pre-construction. Have you done any pre-construction, bought into any pre-construction
No,
projects?
when I was young, I was always interested because of what we were talking about before, where it is a kind of easy way to get in if you don't have a lot of money, and then you kind of just can plan yourself out and be like, okay, 5,000 this, 5,000 this, 5,000 this, and you're just kind of planning it out to, you know, make your goal happen of buying the pre-construction. But I never actually went through with buying a pre-construction.
Yeah. So we're building out. So we're building out a program on pre-construction. I've teamed up with an expert on that. His name is Brian Bogart, and he has a pre-construction program that he delivers. So what we're doing is putting that out. We're putting it out on two different levels. One level is with realtors to learn how to get into the pre-construction market, and also like to for their clients to be able to serve their clients better. But the other is for our clients and investors who want to learn about the best ways to make money buying pre-construction. Because let's face it, not everybody has made money buying pre-construction, right? Some people think you buy it, you're automatically going to make money. And that's not the case, because some projects don't go forward. Some projects don't end up where they're not the same by the time it ends. So you do have to know what you're doing in terms of looking for these projects and the best ones to get involved with. And that's basically what you're taught in this program is how do you protect, number one, how do you protect your investment? And how do you protect your return on your investment? So how do you protect your capital? How do you protect your return on investment? Because both of those are really important, right? If you have, you know, like you're saying, you going into this project and you have a budget and this is how much money you think you're going to make on this project. Well, you want to protect, first of all, the money you put into it, right? You also want to protect what your return on investment is. So you spent more on material because of unforeseen circumstances, right? Which were totally out of your control. So now how do you shift something else to stay within budget? And that may or may not be possible, but with pre-construction, I think you've got to know, you know, you want to know, how am I going to protect my investment? How am I going to protect my return on investment? And that's basically what this whole program is about, and teaches you how to find those unicorns, how to find the properties that are the best properties to buy where you are going to make money on them. Because let's face it, you know, there's pros and cons to it. And one of the cons is that you're basically funding the lender to build this project. That's what you're doing, right? You're funding the lender to build a project. The lender is not giving you a guarantee on that return at all, right? They're not giving you any guarantees. In fact, the builder contracts are very, very heavily one-sided in favor of the builder. So you need to know how to protect that, how to protect what you're getting into, because it'd be like me lending you money and you saying, I'll give it back to you, maybe 3 years, maybe 4, maybe 5, I don't know. And you know what? I'm going to have a clause in there that, you know, I can delay when I'm paying you back 3 or 4 times with 90 days notice. So I could think I'm getting my money back on June 1st, 2023. And in January, you can say, hey, you know what? I need it for longer. I'll let you know when I'm going to give it back to you. And I may pay you some interest. I may not. You know what? You might make money on this. You might not. You might get your principal back. You might not. That's basically what's happening. So you do need to realize how to protect that, how to protect yourself. So that's where having an agent who is knowledgeable about this stuff comes in handy. So it's a great program. We're just launching it. I have 2 webinars coming up next week. One I believe on Monday afternoon, and the other one on Thursday evening. And it'll talk about exactly what's involved, what the investment is to do it, what you're going to get out of it, all of that stuff, and then people can decide whether or not they want to take it. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited myself to learn about it. There have been a number of projects that get me excited. A lot of them I'm like, oh yeah, that's okay. But some of them come across my desk and I'm like, wow, that's a great project to buy into. And I mean, and it doesn't need to be in the Greater Toronto area. That's another thing. So, I mean, there's some really good sides, right? It could be anywhere. It really could be anywhere. And there's really, you know, you're not dealing with tenants, you're not dealing with having to do repairs and stuff like that. You know, you're investing that money, and realistically, what are you going to get? You know, put $100,000 in the bank today, and in 5 years from now, you get $105,000. I mean, in that case, you've lost money, right? If you're getting 0.025 interest on your money, you're losing money.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, vetting is so important, making sure that you understand who, you know, who you're giving your money to. Because like you
Yeah,
said, they could decide to do whatever they want, really.
yeah, it's very one-sided, but
Yeah,
there is a way to make a really good return on your investment there.
yeah.
But you have
Because
to know
you're
your stuff.
also talking about pre-construction to is the strategy you guys will be talking about is about pre-construction and like selling it once, like immediately, like even like assigning it almost, or
Yeah,
is it,
yeah.
oh, okay, so that's the strategy, yeah, that it'd be going.
That, well, it could be. I mean, the strategy is not like, it's not a set strategy on this is what you should do. You should buy it, and at this point you sell it. The strategy is, what's your goal?
Hmm.
What's your goal with buying pre-construction? Is your goal to sell it before it closes as an assignment? Is your goal to hold on to it and keep it as a rental project? Or what's your goal with it, right? So once you have the goal, like there's no projects that we're selling. There's no projects that we're pushing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about pushing a project that we have. It's more about educating you on how do you do this and how do you make the most amount of money. But your goal would have to be just like you do in like, and you talk about in your realm with investors. What's your goal here? Are you looking for doors to hold on to for a number of years? Are you looking for fix and flips? Do you want to deal with tenants? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So here's how you do it. So it's basically to design your own goal of what you want, and then here's how you can achieve that. Like, you know, you don't want to sell it too soon and lose out on potential gains, things like that. Maybe you want to keep it and rent it out. Maybe you want to keep it as a property that, something like my thoughts would be, if you live, let's say you have a job. I mean, here's a great opportunity. You have a job, or you have a job that you were commuting downtown Toronto every day to go to work. And now, because of COVID, people have moved out of the city, but they may go back to work at some point. My personal opinion is that it won't be 5 days a week, 9 to 5. I think companies now have realized how to do different shifts. Maybe they'll switch to 3 days at home, 2 days at work, at the office, whatever, things like that. Desk sharing where they would need half the space. Now, let's say you buy a condo downtown Toronto because you're going to be working down there, and you Airbnb the condo out, but you use it for yourself. You block off the dates that you use it, and then you Airbnb it. It's going to pay for itself, right? That's an opportunity there. So however you want to swing it, not lots of different ways to do it, right?
Yeah, there's so many different ways, yeah, and it's very true, yeah, especially in Toronto. It is, I also see it going in that direction where it's going to be 2 or 3 days on site and the rest
Yeah.
off site, which would be
Yeah.
very
Like, think
interesting.
about that. I mean, some of these companies that had massive towers could get away with half the space, right?
Yeah.
If you had people coming in, 1 week you come in 3 days, the next week you come in 2, and your job share, almost not job sharing, but desk sharing kind of. And this week you come in and people are switching, you don't need as much space. So, I mean, the real estate world's been doing that for a long time, right? Like real estate brokerages, where at one time real estate brokerages had agents had an office space to go to. And then they started slowly going away from that. A lot of, like, the brokers that I'm with is completely cloud-based. There is no real estate kind of attached to it, or companies that have like what they would call the bullpen area with, 7 or 8 computers set up, and people come in and work there and then go home. So, I mean, the real estate world's been doing that for a long time, where they got rid of physical offices for the most part. So I think a lot of these companies probably would go the same way. I mean, heck, they've had to learn how to do this for a year and a half now. Why not? Why I can't see it just all of a sudden, boom, going back to, okay, everybody's got to come back to work now.
Yeah, and even just, I think not even the employer, but also the employees, right? Because the employees, like a lot of people are still very scared of COVID, you know,
Yeah,
and so I think there's just even a lot of influence to help the employee feel comfortable enough, you know, and so that will also probably, you know, make them decide, make I think these kind of decisions happen. Like I think some people, they probably do have to maybe be there all the time,
yeah,
probably trying to find out what kind of jobs don't actually have to be there all the time, and you can, you know, separate your work, or maybe you'll work from home, who knows, right?
yeah. But how's that going to work, right? Because you think if you've got office towers full of people, you can't. I don't think you can mandate that everybody's got to be double vaxxed. And then what about the people who say I'm not coming in unless everybody's got a vaccination, and the guy who says I'm not getting a vaccination. So
Yeah.
how do you police that? That's going to be really interesting, eh? Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it's going to
so
be
much
really.
for the employers to think about and figure
Yes.
out, right? Because yeah, there's the conflict even in the news. They're saying there's going to be the conflict between the vaccinated and non-vaccinated, and there's going to be some kind of segregation happening because of that. So it's just
Yeah.
seeing how they're going to plan to work around all that, because
Yeah.
it is people's choices to decide if they do or don't, but then, you know, now employers need to figure out how that's going to affect them and their business and how to work around
Yeah. That's a really good question. That's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, only time will tell. I think
that.
hopefully that works itself out. I think, yeah.
Well, I think companies are also providing incentives actually for people to get vaccinated.
Wow, really, eh? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like in my company, they're giving people 4 hours paid to go
Mm,
be able to get vaccinated. So
interesting.
we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see what's happening other places too.
yeah, that's very interesting. So, yeah, I think the pre-construction market, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Um, Maybe not so much. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say not so much downtown Toronto, but I think some of the outskirts will be interesting. I think there's some good opportunities there for pre-construction. I know there's a project coming up in Aurelia that looks really interesting. Some of the outskirts, Durham, Hamilton, some of the areas out this way. And then the other thing that I think is a great option is like vacation homes, and renting things out, not even necessarily here, but just in other areas, right? Collingwood, Blue Mountain, Creemore, places like that are really good opportunities. Then you've got a space to go and hang out when you want to get away, but it's also a moneymaker. You can pretty much, you have a vacation home for free.
Yeah, there's so many different types of pre-constructions. Yeah, especially I feel like in Wasaga or Collingwood, there've been so much pre-construction, like many years
Yes.
of building so many houses over there.
Yeah.
Although I
Yeah.
think that's probably also an important thing to keep in mind is when you're buying a pre-construction and like you said, you're setting your goals to actually know what the bylaws are in that city. Because I know, for
Yeah.
example, I believe it's Wasaga that you're not allowed to do Airbnb over there, is it? I think so. I don't know. I forget because
Yeah.
I don't really invest there. And then so you can only do like short-term rentals. So then,
Yeah.
you know, knowing your cities is also important to make sure your strategy is
Yes.
actually going to work for you. You know, you buy pre-construction, then find out you can't actually, let's say, Airbnb or something if you really
Yes.
wanted that to be your strategy.
Yeah. Well, it depends how you want to do it. I mean, like, yeah, I know some places they have like you can only rent it out so many days a year, or and you're right. And it could be a bylaw thing. Um, it could be a bylaw thing. It could be a condo corp thing, right? So you got to check both because
Yeah, that's true.
the city could mandate that Airbnbs are not allowed. It could be a municipal bylaw, or I mean, the condo corp could say we're not allowing. I mean, and that's a group thing, right? That's a group decision. We're not allowing any Airbnbs. So, but I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. There's short-term rentals where you can do it yourself, right? I mean, Airbnb made it easy, but and I think they really got a bad rap. I don't think I've owned places that I Airbnb, and it's a great system. I think they got a bad rap with some things that they were doing, right? But I mean, I didn't rent it out on a nightly basis. It was a minimum. If you have a minimum of the number of nights, you get away from those people who are just renting it to party. So you're just asking for problems if you do that. But
Yeah.
so
And I feel like even those people are probably the unexperienced Airbnbers because I mean, I feel the people that do short-term rentals like that or Airbnbs, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want your place to get destroyed. So usually
Oh,
if
of
you've done it
course.
enough, you're vetting those people out
Yeah.
and seeing, who you want inside it. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so even those kind of things are also important to learn. If you do want to Airbnb or do short-term rental, it's also
Yeah.
important to just even understand, you know, okay, what is involved in even making sure you're getting the right kind of people to be in
Yes.
your place where it's not getting ruined,
Yeah.
your unit's getting ruined, and you're having to do a lot of repairs or who knows.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think there's an opportunity there. Where else are you seeing the opportunities for investing?
For investing, oh my God, I don't know. I think right now it just seems like it seems like from what I'm hearing, things are shifting around. It's more like the strategies are still working. Like all different strategies work. It's just now finding which cities work for which strategies. Like that,
Yeah.
like talking about before, my realtor for Toronto, like he's like now he's just like, okay, let's sell this one off. We're ready to sell it off. And he's just like, we should look in another city for the
Yeah.
next one. He doesn't want to look in Toronto. So I
Yeah.
think I think what's probably going to happen, I guess, in Toronto is that I think things maybe may stabilize for a bit and just stay static. And obviously, for flipping, that doesn't work. You need like the market to be going up for you to get those margins that you want, right?
Yeah. Well, the
Hopefully, we find
costs
more.
are very high. It's
Pardon?
harder there, right? It's harder there because the margins are quite thin, right? Because of what you have to pay for the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and yeah, there's so many added expenses, because you have to pay permits for even like in the city, like the streets and things like that, where, if you do something like in Oakville and Burlington, you can like park wherever you want,
Yes,
like
yes,
you're
yeah,
not gonna get in any kind of trouble or get ticketed or like our
yeah.
neighbor, the neighbor in Toronto. He's been trying to get his permits for just to be able to park on the street. And this guy like lives there. I don't know how many years he's been there, and he's been waiting for his permit. He gets like ticketed, I don't know, every other day or something.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
and and
Wow.
but he applied for it, so he's just allowing the tickets, I guess, to accumulate. He doesn't care because he's just going to, I guess, show them like I applied for this long ago. Like, what do you expect me to do? I guess that's a strategy. And
Wow.
he's gonna hope that he gets his money back, I guess.
Oh my goodness. I don't think that's a good strategy. That's a really risky strategy, but
I know, imagine, and then
oh,
you're maybe like $2,000 in debt, and they're like, "No, you can pay it. You can like pay that off," and they're like, "Oh man."
plus interest, plus all the added fees that goes on the parking fines. Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, you do have added extra costs because you also have like um, the double land transfer there. I mean, there's a lot of things, right? There's a lot of extra costs involved. I know some contractors who just don't work there, period.
Yeah. Well,
So
I
that,
can tell you my husband's really irritated with Toronto, and he's also happy not to that the next one won't be in Toronto. It's
yeah,
just
I
it's
know.
just it's just more stressful. Like even because everything's all one ways. If he goes out to buy material, you're getting stuck behind like, and especially in the area we're in, everyone is like renovating over there, right? So you get stuck behind these massive like trucks because they're trying to like,
Yeah,
they're stopping because you have nowhere else to go. So they stop. Because I mean, we did the same thing, right? Like the trucks would come in, let's say for underpinning, and then they're, putting in the concrete, and it's a one way, and there's cars parked on each side, and so they block the whole thing, and so you're having to like figure out, okay, this is blocked, and I don't know if you have to wait or something, but
oh,
it blocks traffic a lot over there, all the construction, because it's just the streets are so narrow
yeah,
and all the renovations going on.
yeah. What a headache, eh? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I guess it's all the return on your investment, right? It's all the cost of doing business, I think.
It is like that. To me, it's more like as long as you're running your numbers and, that's what matters, right? If it can be like $1 million, but if you're making 2 million, does it really matter? It's expensive, but yes, you're still
Yeah,
making whatever your expected profits are of it.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
that's good. So I think that's yeah, I'm excited about the new construction to get into that. I think there's still a lot of upside to the new construction if you're not married to the Toronto area. So I'm really excited to do that course. So we'll talk about that a little bit as we go along. But if anyone's interested, just email or DM me and yeah, DM me is probably the easiest way and I can get you information on that.
So is that what you're very interested in these days? Is the pre-construction? Is that what
Yeah, well,
you're
I would,
going
yeah,
in?
it's not going to be my only focus. But I do want to investigate it a little bit more and look into it a little bit more and look for some good opportunities that come up because there are some really good opportunities that come up. Um, yeah, in a lot of different areas, they've got projects going on. Like I said, Creemore, what were we just talking about? Collingwood. My brain's on freeze today a little bit. Creemore, there's a interesting project. Aurelia, there's an interesting project coming up. Collingwood, always, like I said, different areas like that. St. Catharines, out that way, Niagara on the Lake, like so many. Hamilton, I still think is still a great. There's lots of opportunities here, and there'll be more coming up as we go along. Um, and Durham way. I mean, I don't do a lot out in Durham, but I know that's big, a lot of projects in Durham going on.
Yeah, it
So
seems like it's thriving over there too. Yeah,
yeah,
we've
well,
seen.
there's so much space, right? I think about where the space is to build, like Durham, when you're talking about Whitby, Ajax, Oshawa, Curtis, all those areas, there's lots of land there to build. And you're relatively close to Toronto if you want to, if that's where you want to go. Hamilton's looking at now like intensifying out here, right? So I think we're going to see some battles going on between the city and the people because they don't want to get rid of the farmland, but it's inevitable. Like it's
Yeah.
just inevitable. It's coming. You may as well work with them and figure out how to make it work the best possible way that it can so everybody's happy because it's coming whether you want it or not. Like it's not gonna stay.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. I mean, the same thing happened, all same thing through Oakville, Burlington. We always thought that the green belt would stay and no one would be building on
Yeah,
there. And now it's gone to a point where, yeah, I mean, it's already going.
exactly. Yeah. So that ship has sailed. That's happening no matter what. So you may
Yeah.
as well jump on that bandwagon and if you're passionate about it, be involved in the whole process of planning because that's what's important, right?
Yeah, at least be able to put your input for how you want it to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's really interesting. So next, what are we doing next week, Diana? What are we talking about next week? Next week,
Next week is Q&A.
Q&A. Okay, awesome. So we'll have to get some questions as we go along. So if anyone has any questions they want us to address during the week, just type it in and we can address it. I'll think of some too. I'm going to think of some really hard ones for you, Diana.
I'm
I don't
scared.
think they're I don't think that's possible because you're very aware of what's going on. So it's amazing. So yeah, so we'll be back next week, Tuesday, every Tuesday at 1 o'clock and talk about something different. I did also want to do, once I get it together, we'll talk about that maybe on the next, not Q&A, but this week one, so a month out. Um, the difference when you're buying and holding, like buying now with prices low, we talked about this last week, right? Like what's the difference if you buy a higher price with a lower interest rate or a lower price with a higher interest rate and kind of how that plays out, or even maybe I can put some together on renting versus buying because I think that's important too, right? You
Yeah,
should,
those would be
shouldn't
good.
wait to buy real estate. You should buy real estate and wait. Just figure out what drives you, what are you passionate about, what do you know the most about. That's easiest. Then you can figure out how you want to do this. Do you want to buy pre-construction? If that's not your forte, do you want to buy investment properties, or do you want to flip them? What do you want to do? Do you want to deal with tenants? Do you not want to deal with tenants? Figure out all those things of what you want to do, and then we could tailor a plan for the best way to do it.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. It doesn't really matter what strategy. I mean, except flipping. Don't get into flipping unless if you know what you're doing. But anything else, as long as you're in it for the long haul, uh, you can never go wrong. Even if you buy like at the very top in one year, I mean, if you keep it for the long term, you will still be winning in the end, and more than winning, you know.
Yeah, well, okay. So actually, you just jogged my memory about something else we're going to talk about in that program is setting out your plan, right? Because you need to have a plan A. This is best case scenario plan A, but just like we've seen with COVID and prices rising, things happen that are outside of your control. So what's my plan B? What if something shifts and something happens and I've got to go to a plan B? What's that? And what's my plan C? You always have to have those plans backed up just in case, things don't go the way you expected them to go. And
Yeah.
then, you never, that's all part and parcel of how you protect your capital and how you protect your return on investment.
Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, very, very, very important. We call that exit strategies. You should have
Yes.
multiple exit strategies so that at least you're prepared for like that,
Yeah.
the best case scenario to the worst case scenario, and then you're
Yeah.
not as stressed because you already know what your strategies are when you get to those points if it happens.
Yeah. Because the worst thing is your exit strategy is the panic button.
Yeah.
Right? The panic button cannot be an exit strategy because you're not going to make good decisions when you hit the panic button, right? So,
100%.
and
And that's when you're losing money. That's actually, I
yeah,
feel like that's always when people lose money is there's no plan behind what they do and you're kind of working on the fly. And when you do that, that's when problems come up in anything that you do.
anything. Yeah.
Anything, if there's no plan, no strategy behind what you're doing,
Yeah.
that's why people lose money in real estate. It's not because like, oh, you bought high or whatever. As long as you know what your strategies and what you're doing, you will always be, you will always be successful or at least breaking even or something because
Yeah.
you come with the plan, right? And the plan should help you out.
Yeah. That's why your community is so important, right? Because you build a community of investors and team members and things like that. And then you can always run situations by them. And you may hit a snag that you don't really understand how to deal with, and you put it out to the community and people will give you feedback on it. And it could be a great, easy option that you never even thought of and never would have thought of. So I think that's why that community is so important.
Yeah. And yeah, a community is very, very important in anything that you get into because exactly you said that that's the purpose of the communities. Because if you haven't gone through that problem, someone else probably has.
Yes.
And they can definitely help you and guide you in the right direction to, make it as smooth as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. That's the goal.
We definitely can't be expected to know everything.
Yes. Smooth process is always the desired outcome, right? Everybody wants a smooth process. You're always going to have obstacles as you go along, but that's okay. That's how you grow. That's how you learn.
Yeah. And it's the obstacles are actually good because it forces you to be creative and think of ways to solve the problems, right? Or
Yeah.
like that, go to your community and maybe sometimes you need someone else to help you to solve the problems, but like it helps you open up your creativity because maybe you can't figure it out, but someone else can. And then
Yeah.
that opens up your window to, oh, I didn't even realize that was an option. I'm going to keep that in mind for next time. Or you may even think of like, wow, you can do this. That means I can do this, this, and this also. And
Yeah.
just like starts opening up doors that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah. I love that. Wow. I love that. Plus, yeah, the networking and other trades, other things that you can, yeah. So it's super important. I can't stress how important that is for sure. You got to surround yourself with people that have done what you want to do and are successful and positive. That's the most important, right?
Yeah. And
Positive.
open
Yeah.
people too that are willing like that to share.
To share.
Because I mean, you give information and someone else will give you
Yeah.
information. We're all like, it's everyone wants to help everyone out, or at least
Yeah.
like in the community. That's what we try to promote, to
So,
share.
okay. So I guess after when we're done in the chat, put in there how people can contact you, maybe by email or whatever. And then if anyone's interested in joining the community, I think it would be great. They can reach out to you and you can tell them what it's all about. And, it's a pretty laid back community, just, helping each other. I think it's a great community. So you could put your contact details in there. Or
Yeah.
people can always DM you on Facebook, whatever, if you want to chat with Diana and get some ideas about how to join the community, how to, do I even want to become an investor? I think that's a good one, right? Because it really is not for everyone. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, or just knowing the kind, I guess, I mean,
I think you froze, so I don't know if you're frozen on my end and people can still hear me and can't hear you, or if I'm frozen and people can still hear you talking. So I'm going to give you another second there to figure this out. Diana, come back, Diana. Okay. So I'm not sure if people can hear me talking and if I'm frozen or Diana's frozen, but here's what I'm going to say as we wrap this up, because maybe she's going to fall off there. But if you want to get in touch with Diana and find out more about her community and what she does and how she can help you, you can DM her here on Facebook. Or yeah, it looks like we've lost her. You can DM her here on Facebook. You can DM me as well, and I can put you in contact with her. If you're interested in getting information about pre-construction and the course that we have coming up, I think that'd be awesome. You can reach out to me as well. I'm happy to help and give you those questions. Any general real estate questions, I'm always here to help and answer anything that I can. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you next Tuesday.